Well, as you might have noticed, work at the Department of Transportation can sometimes be a messy business. Think about maintaining worm-composting toilets at a state rest area, or transforming roadkill into renewal by cleaning and composting animal carcasses from our state highways.
These are just a few examples of the many challenging jobs our dedicated DOT employees tackle every single day. And today, you're going to learn about some of them on this very special Dirty Jobs edition of the DOT POD. The New York State Department of Transportation presents the DOT POD.
And welcome into the DOT POD. I'm Josh Heller.
And I'm Anya Cardos.
And we are delighted to have you joining us. Well, today we are rolling up our sleeves for a closer look at some of the grittiest and grimiest jobs within the New York State Department of Transportation. Now, this is hardly the polished side of public service. It's the kind of stuff most of us never think about, nor want to think about, yet we still rely upon.
On our deep dive into DOT's dirty jobs, we meet Manalula Lou Diastri. Lou oversees the Southern Tier Welcome Center in Kirkwood, New York, which features a worm-composting toilet system, so there's no flush in there. And you don't want to drop your cell phone, as Lou shared how he retrieves such items in the toilet composting bins located at the Welcome Center's basement. Eek.
Now, this was a really interesting interview with Lou, sharing how these eco-friendly toilets are actually helping New York State to become cleaner and greener, and it might just make you look at worms slightly differently.
Welcome, Lou. Thank you so much for joining us on the DOT POD.
Thanks for having us here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. We always like to kick things off by asking our guests a little bit about themselves, their jobs here at DOT. Tell us what you do here.
Okay, I started here at DOT 2015. January 21st, 2015. And I started out highway maintenance. I would go out, I was part of the road crew, did the plowing, I picked up dead animals, did blacktopping, mowing. Then this position came up, the maintenance assistants here at the Welcome Center, and I also take care of the one in Whitney Point.
Well, the Welcome Center, where we are today in Kirkwood, New York, has a unique and sustainable toilet system here for handling human waste. Talk about this system here and why it's good for the environment, why it was put in here, and tell us a little bit about how it works.
Well, it's a composting system. So what we have downstairs is each toilet and urinal has its own composting tank downstairs. So within each tank, we have worms, and the worms, they eat up all the feces. And we add wood chips to it to help give the worms a chance to breathe and it not turn swampy or turn into like a septic system. So it's supposed to be good for the environment, but then the venting that we have outside, when you go outside, the smell is awful.
Can only imagine.
Yeah.
Now, so we'll talk about the specifics that goes into it, including the aroma. With the composting, when the worms are done with it, is that something that you guys are able to use? Is it usable compost?
So it is usable compost. So we have a company that comes in, and so a lot of our tanks downstairs, when they redid the rest area 2018, they haven't been pumped out. So the worms do not eat the toilet paper. So within each tank, we have a sprayer, almost like, I don't know if you know of like a thermostat in the vehicle, how it opens up and closes. So it's the same process with the water. So it sprays a little mist, and what it does is compact everything. So once a month we go down, we rake everything out because it's just a tube that comes down. So it almost looks like goes straight up the tube and comes down. So kind of spread it out. And we add more wood chips just to help the worms to breathe.
What is it like to work on these toilets? Because they need to be maintained. You and your crew, you oversee this rest stop. What is that job like?
So the only person that works on them is myself.
Lucky you.
Yes. So I also sometimes, we have a guy who comes and he checks on the worms. He also helps me out because he knows the whole, he's been doing this for 30 some years. So he knows the whole system.
So he makes sure the worms are healthy and doing their job.
Yes. And so even when there's times we have to pump out a tank, what it is there's a piece that divides the front of the tank so that at the bottom, once you get down there, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Nothing will come out the bottom. So once he releases this cavity, then he goes underneath with a rake and a potato picker, and he pulls the stuff, because that's where everything is hard. And he pulls it forward with a lot of water, and that's how they suck it out. They suck the tanks out from the bottom because the worms won't go down to the bottom. And then the worms also, some of the tanks have the urinals connected to it. So the worms do not like urine and they don't like water. So they stay away from those areas. So they eat everything around it.
Now, I know that there are signs and pictures and diagrams telling people when they walk into these bathrooms, hey, these are not...
Yeah, they're different.
They're not, yeah, they're a little bit different than what you're used to. Specifically, the water content when you go up there. That being said, people don't pay attention to these types of things. It is a bit different. It looks a bit different. And I imagine you get a lot of questions and calls and issues because people think that there's an issue with the toilets when there really isn't.
Yes, we do. And the nice thing is 99% of the people, when you explain it to them, they understand and they're happy with it. Other people get angry and they kick senses, or they yell at us, and then we get a bad review. But out of the hundreds of great reviews, one bad review, because they can't understand the composting and the smell. So we don't pay that much attention.
Right. And there's actual signs when you go into
actual
the bathrooms that say the toilets are not broken. They do not run on water. They're waterless toilets.
Correct.
And so basically it's almost like I would describe it as kind of like like an airplane toilet, almost is what they look like.
It's like an airplane toilet or like a RV. Mm-hmm. So what happens is, as soon as you walk in the bathroom, in the stall, it detects you in there. Okay, so as soon as it starts, you walk in, you don't really notice because you're pulling your pants down or whatever you're doing to get ready. So it automatically starts foaming. So behind each toilet, we have a container with soap. And it still looks like a regular toilet, but it has a container for the soap. And then we have hoses that actually are connected to a little pump. And that's what creates the bubbles. So the sensor sends this. We also have computers back there. So as soon as you walk in, the computer and the sensor detects you in there, sends a message to the pump, and it starts flushing.
It's funny because when you think compost toilet, and when you break it down to what it is, it's a hole. It's a hole to a container at the bottom, but it's a lot more than that, obviously, with the computers and whatnot that's going on. So obviously things happen. People drop things. And when you drop, say, a phone down the toilet, normally that phone's gone.
Correct.
But not necessarily here. And you have the joy and pleasure of retrieving said items. Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I first got here, my supervisor showed me that they had a potato picker. So I don't know if you realize a potato picker just has prongs, and they're usually maybe 2 to 3 inches apart. So it's very hard to scoop up a key. Well, if as long as this has a round key ring, you can get it. But it's hard to pick up keys. It's hard to pick up phones because it wants to fall. So I was at the local Tractor Supply looking for some other materials we needed. And I happened to see a 5.5 foot picker. And that's what we usually go outside when we work for DOT. We pick up the trash with these pickers. That's usually about
the little
2.5 feet. Correct.
Pickups, yeah.
So I found one that's 5.5 feet long. So now I use that. And it literally takes me, as long as I can see it, I can grab it.
So now, do you get that from above, from the toilet side, or do you go underneath and open up the
No, I go underneath, unless, like I had an issue where a phone got stuck. So I used my picker. I couldn't find the phone. I have flashlights in there. I shut first thing we do is we shut the toilet down so no one goes in there. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking. I couldn't find his phone, so I called up went upstairs and I asked the person who dropped it, "Are you sure you dropped it in this toilet?" They yelled, "Yes." So the husband said, "Well, I will call her phone." So once they rang the phone, I'm upstairs and I can hear the phone ringing. So I'm looking all around the bathroom and couldn't find anything. So then I go underneath and I could hear the phone ringing in the basement. So now I realized it was stuck in the pipes. After about an hour to 2 hours worth of work, banging the pipes, couldn't take the pipes apart because I didn't have extra pipes on the weekend. Nothing was open. The phone finally fell, and I was able to give them their phone.
When you give them their phone back, they have to, on one hand, be relieved, right? Oh, thankful.
Yes.
On the other hand,
you're handing them
they now have a phone. They have a phone that has just been.
Well, one of the things I do tell them is, I tell them ahead of time, it's going to be nasty. And I don't clean phones because these phones are expensive and no one's going to say I messed up their phone. Right. So I went out, the same day I bought the long picker, I bought a box of Ziploc bags. So I give them the phone or the keys or earbuds in a Ziploc bag, and I give them all the cleaning supplies they want, napkins, gloves. Use as many as you want.
You're going the extra mile, though. I mean, that is pretty nice. I mean, first of all, you did a lot of work just getting people's stuff back. And as Josh mentioned, and as you're saying, this happens quite a bit.
We had 2 last week.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the smell. So we've been down there. It's hard to describe. How would you explain the smell when you go downstairs?
If you ever been on the farm, I guess, and the manure, when they spread it along the field, that odor, I would probably say it's about 2 to 3 times worse than that. I mean, it's awful. When I first came here, I had on 2 masks, and my supervisor told me I would get used to it. I'm embarrassed to say I'm kind of used to it, except for when they come to drain the tanks. When they turn that, it's awful. It's raw. It's bad.
Where does the material go? How is it used after?
So they do take it to, some farmers take it, and they spread it on their fields.
Well, this is all about sustainability, and we are really expanding our reach when it comes to sustainability. Does it make you feel pretty proud that you're one part of the piece of the progress here in New York State when it comes to sustainability?
Yes, it does. We're trying to help the environment. It's just, as long as I guess more people understood what's going on here. A lot of people get angry, but I guess a lot of it's just not having the knowledge and understanding about what we're trying to do. And we're saving on water.
And I just want people, when you're visiting, just know you can help create fertilizer that will feed America. And that is the dream. That's the dream right there. That's what we all want.
Yes.
That's what we all want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Lou. This was
welcome.
A really beyond interesting conversation and tour of the facility.
Never thought I'd be talking about this type of...
Right. By nickel tour, I mean, it's like a serious tour.
It is.
But thank you so much.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks to Lou for taking us on this very unique and wormy tour of the Southern Tier Welcome Center. I don't think I'm ever going to forget, Josh, how Lou pulled out a pair of sunglasses from one of the bins in the basement.
We can try. Well, preparing for this episode, we heard stories about DOT employees who face all kinds of challenges, including clearing nasty drains or major spills on the highways, and even creepy discoveries like finding hundreds of hibernating snakes while digging up ground. I don't do snakes, Anya.
I'm a lot like Indy.
Do snakes.
I do not.
No, thank you.
I don't do snakes.
No, thank you. Well, another job that's not for the faint of heart or stomach would be removing animal carcasses from our state highways. It's dirty, dangerous, but it's absolutely essential. And there's a twist. That's what happens after the removal, and it's truly a story of environmental sustainability.
To explain how all of this works is Russ Burckhard. He's a highway maintenance supervisor, based out of Voorheesville. Well, welcome, Russ.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for
having me.
Hey, we always ask our guests to share a bit about themselves and their job here at DOT. Would you mind doing the same?
I've been here about a little over 13 years. With the DOT. I started off in Voorheesville and moved over to Voorheesville about 3-4 years ago and worked up and became a supervisor, HMS1.
Well, congratulations. We're
Thank
glad
you.
to have you.
Well, what did you do before DOT?
Everything.
Well-rounded.
Anything from mechanics to construction to mechanical engineering. I've been all over the place.
Excellent. Well, I think a lot of people would consider the part of your work that we're going to discuss kind of gross. but it's also very green, and it actually is. When you think about it, it's actually kind of a beautiful story of the circle of life.
That's
oh my
right.
God, yeah, I want to sing Lion King right now. But basically transforming unfortunate animals, fatalities that happen on the highway into nourishing compost. So take us kind of through from the beginning to end how this works really.
Generally, we'll get a phone call that there's a deer on the side of the road or some other type of animal. Most smaller animals we don't deal with because of rabies. So deer or large animals because other municipalities or whatever don't have the ability to get rid of them, such as bear, moose, cows.
Because they're in
horses.
The hundreds of pounds, those animals. Yes. They're massive.
Around this area, not so much, but I know our friends up north, they have moose probably pretty regular.
Oh yeah. So what is it like? So you obviously you go out with a truck, I'm assuming.
Yes, we generally use a truck with a lift gate because the deer, they can get rather large.
Gloves, lots of gloves.
Yeah.
Yes, rubber gloves, nitrile or whatever to keep the fluids off you.
Oh, is there? Okay, I will go into this.
Do it.
All right. I've heard that obviously there's gas on the inside. There's things that can make this a somewhat volatile situation.
Is what I hate the most.
So how do you handle this delicately so you don't end up having to, having some sort of unfortunate situation?
Some people carry Vicks and they rub the Vicks under their nose to not smell the, natural smells. Earplugs, they will work, but they're not foolproof.
Talking about earplugs in the nose.
Yes, earplugs in the nose.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Sorry. So that does help. My line of defense usually is I do not breathe through my nose. I only breathe through my mouth and as little as possible because then you almost kind of taste it to some extent. So
so these poor unfortunate animals, they are then taken to where?
We have an area back at the shop that we compost them. So when we get them back to the shop, we have wood chips and we regularly kind of turn them to, and with the heat, with the composting, gets rid of the flesh and it basically just leaves bones.
There's a whole prescribed method, though. You need to have space. You can't there needs to be some sort of air in there for all these insects and worms to do the job. And this is a real prescribed kind of method. You can't just toss the deer on there. And you also have to do it in an area so it doesn't affect our neighbors as well.
When the deer are covered with the chips, it kind of suppresses the smell pretty good. There are other animals that will dig them out and, make a meal out of them. As far as, the actual chemical reactions or whatever, I'm not overly familiar with that part of it. We just kind of keep turning them with our chips.
And is there anything you can do as far as trying to keep the other animals away? Because that can make a mess.
They kind of know they're there.
They know they're there. It's like the dumpster somewhere.
Yeah.
They know it's there, right? Yeah.
Our yard, usually it seems like every spring we have a family of fox that lay their offspring in our yard somewhere. Lots of times in the culvert pipes that we have waiting for. Yeah, they kind of bury in where, it's dry.
Sweet.
So they're there. We get deer all the time running through the yard. We have a lot of different birds from crows to turkey vultures, and we even get eagles. Really? Yes. And the eagles are around because any turkey vulture will disappear.
So so how long does it usually take from the time you bring on a carcass to when it actually becomes material that is compost? Like a few months, 6 months, a year?
No, it's not that long.
Really?
Lots of times, like we'll drop a deer off and, I would say it's only a few weeks or so.
Seriously? Okay.
So whether or not that's the composting or the animals eating or whatever, because usually when we find them out, we'll bury them back in.
Now, when it does eventually become usable compost, what kind of stuff do you do with that?
Yeah, I understand that some of the regions use this compost in the right-of-ways for like flowers, wildflower plantings, trees, grass. Is that also part of the process too?
That does happen in some regions. Ourselves, where I'm at, for the most part, we don't really do too much with the chips and, with the compost stuff. But, like I said, we have some low areas in our yard that we'll fill as long as there's not a smell, because some of those areas back up to neighbors. So, we're mindful of them.
So whenever you need soil fill, you add that into there and...
Yeah, sometimes, doing pipe work, if we have to, get dirt or
covering culverts, things like that.
We'll put a layer of that down and then fill it with topsoil. So you have a little fertilizer in there, and you have your topsoil. So throw a little grass seed down, and
wow, I bet it grows pretty good.
It does.
I gotta ask, what are some of the strangest animals and things like that you've been called to take care of?
For the most part, it's a lot of deer. I mean, there are little rodents, lots of times we just kind of, as long as it's not somebody's yard, just kind of shovel them off into the weeds. And then the local live animals will take care of them. I've seen bear. Let's see. We did get a call at one time to get a deer off the road, and when we got there, it was actually a coyote. So I was like,
how do you mess that up?
Yeah, well, a small deer,
I
big
suppose.
coyote, it's kind of close. But the, for the most part, where I'm at, I don't really get too much. There was one time on 787, there was a pile of something that, you could tell that, had the smell. And when it got up to it, it was a big turkey. Keeping up with the dirty part of this was probably the most disgusting thing I've ever run into. Got a shovel to get it out of there, and when I did, it was, and I'm probably going to exaggerate with 1 million, but there was about 1 million maggots in there. Oh. And as soon as it was touched, the smell just went like 100 times. And I had to actually run down the highway to not get sick. It was that bad.
This is not an easy job, really. You guys are. I'm always amazed with our DOT employees. They're so dedicated and hardworking, and even in the face of some really, really challenging stuff like what you're talking about. Yeah. Did you ever think you'd be doing something like this?
No.
And also, I mean, we talk about how it's being, composted later on, but getting these things off the road it's important. I mean, that's a dangerous thing to have, whether it's on the side of the road, whether it's in the middle of the road. These are dangerous things. So this is something that has to be done. One
of the other things that I kind of had for like letting people, to avoid the deers, generally speaking, and it's not 100%, when it's raining, the deer usually bed down. And when it's windy, they usually bed down because they use their sense of smell to worry about predators or whatever. So generally, when it's raining or windy, the deer aren't as active on the road. But after the rain, they're hungry. So then they come out and are more of a chance of getting hit.
Huh, that is a real helpful tip.
That is. So
thanks, Russ.
Be vigilant, be aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question for drivers. When they do see a deceased animal on the side of the road, who should they call? What do we do?
So most of the time, the calls we get are from the person that actually hit it, because they want a accident report. So for the most part, it's probably 911.
Okay.
Which I'm guessing you could probably call them and just tell them it's a non-emergency. That way, it's not tying up, potential emergency, and just let them know. You could always call the local authorities. And if it's it doesn't matter if it's during business hours. If you call the residency that's in there after hours, the calls are forwarded to TMC, the traffic management, and they will call us to bring them to pick
because
it
you
up,
guys are on
dispose
call
of
for
it.
this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, we're on
24/7.
call 24/7.
Right. And you get calls from law enforcement saying, yes, there's...
We only get calls from TMC.
Okay, from the traffic.
I mean, we, during the day, we might get a call from them.
Okay, so our
but
traffic management
generally,
centers.
TMC is
Okay.
who calls us. If right now one happened, the local would call our shop, and then they would, we would get it out, because we're there during our regular hours.
Well, Russ, again, as we've said probably many times in this episode, it's a dirty job, but it's a necessary job. It's
Yes.
Someone's got to do it, and we appreciate you putting your nose on the line. But no, I mean, in all fairness, I mean, these are jobs that are necessary and need to be done, and things that people don't think about because they don't have to, nor do they want to, but they are necessary for for the safety of the traveling public, and we are glad we can shine a light on it, and want to give you our thanks for doing that.
Well, again, thanks for having me. Glad to bring some knowledge.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, that will just about do it for us here from the DOT POD and our special Dirty Jobs edition. And again, these are just two of the many, many dirty yet essential jobs that are done by DOT employees every single day to so that we don't have to, which
That's right.
frankly is good, because I don't want to.
And I'm glad they're here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
no
so
question
glad.
about that. No question about that. And hopefully you learned a little bit about some of the necessary, if not slightly dirty jobs that occur here at DOT. And again, they are just some of the many that are done on a daily basis to allow you and I and everyone else to traverse safely and with clean hands.
And not even think about it.
And not ever
No muss,
think
no
about
fuss
it.
for us, that's
It
for
is.
sure.
It is convenient for us. Convenient for us. So again, thank you to our guests, Lou and Russ, for shedding a little bit of light on what they do and the necessity of the jobs there. And thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in here to the DOT POD, wherever you and however you may be doing so. We certainly appreciate having you on board. You can reach out to us, podcast@dot.ny.gov. That's our email address, podcast@dot.ny.gov. The quickest and easiest way to get in touch with us. So, she's Anya. I'm Josh. We'll be right back here next time on the DOT POD.